I still remember those mysterious whispers, those covert smiles he thought I was oblivious to. His sudden and secret so-called cabin trips with the boys were more frequent and enigmatic. For a long time, trust was a bridge we both built, and I never thought he would be the one to burn it. The day I decided to surprise him, the shock was mine to embrace, and the scene before me was anything but anticipated. In this narration, I share a transformative journey from being a deceived spouse to discovering strength and resilience I never knew resided within me. This story is not just a tale of betrayal and revenge, but it's about metamorphosis, redemption, learning to love oneself, and finding strength in the darkest of times. But remember, it's not just a tale of revenge. It's a story that transcends beyond the usual norms, breaking the stereotypes of vengeance and reaching a state of liberation, acceptance, and empowerment. My name is Camilla, and this is my story. So there I was, casually sipping my morning coffee, browsing through old photos of us, hubby and me, laughing, kissing, being the embodiment of a picture-perfect marriage. It had been 5 blissful years, but something was off lately. Every few weekends, my husband would gather his bags and vanish into the wilderness with his gang of friends, or the boys, as he affectionately called them, leaving me to wonder what mysterious adventures they were off to. His tales of these secretive escapades were riddled with inconsistencies. He'd say they were fishing, but there would be no pictures of fish. He'd say they were camping, but there'd be no photos of tents. Must be a guy thing, I would say to myself, pushing aside the nagging doubt and the nagging feeling that something was amiss. Curiosity is a potent brew, and eventually, I caved. I decided to surprise him on one of his secret cabin trips. My heart raced with anticipation as I drove through winding roads, surrounded by dense, whispering trees, to the secluded cabin where they supposedly hung out. I hope he's happy to see me, I muttered to myself, my hands clammy on the wheel. As I reached, the sight before me made my heart sink into my stomach. There was my husband, but there were no boys. Instead, there she was, a woman, her laughter harmonizing with his in a symphony of betrayal. Rage bubbled inside me as I watched them, unseen. But rather than confront them, an idea hatched inside my head. A spectacular, dramatic, grandiose display of revenge, seasoned with a sprinkle of public humiliation. I started my meticulous plan by gathering evidence. I clicked photographs, collected voice recordings, snippets of their stolen moments together. Each piece of evidence was a sharp sting, a reminder of the facade of my marriage. I kept telling myself, focus, this is for the grand revelation. This will be worth it. With all the evidence I needed, it was time to set the stage. I decided to throw a grand party, a soiree to celebrate love and commitment. My invitations were extended to all our friends, family, and acquaintances, and there was a peculiar emphasis on the boys to make sure they attend. My heart pounded as I prepared, knowing that the mask of perfection would soon be shattered. To my delight, the party was buzzing. The air was saturated with laughter and chatter, everyone blissfully ignorant of the drama that was about to unfold. My husband, basking in the love and attention showered upon him, was completely oblivious to the storm brewing around him. With every passing second, my heart raced, but I kept my composure. I smiled. I laughed. I played the gracious host, waiting for the perfect moment to drop my bombshell. And then it arrived, the moment when everyone was gathered, their attention fixated on us, as we were about to make a toast. I raised my glass high, my voice steady, to love, and to the beautiful secrets it holds. With a smirk, I started the projection. The room fell into stunned silence as images flashed across the screen, the laughter and whispers of stolen moments echoing around the room. The air was charged with shock, betrayal, and whispered accusations. I watched as the color drained from my husband's face, his eyes darting around, looking for an escape from the web of his own making. The room was a battlefield, and I was the lone warrior, standing tall amidst the ruins of my marriage, victorious yet broken. I had pulled off my grand revenge. The public humiliation etched on his face was the trophy I hadn't known I wanted. But there was no joy in this victory, only the cold, empty realization that the man I had loved was never truly mine. And while the whispers and the stares surrounded me, the only sound that echoed in my mind was the shattering of my own heart. The fallout from my dramatic revelation was like a slow-burning fire, consuming everything in its path. My husband, or should I say soon-to-be ex-husband, was now the subject of hushed whispers and furtive glances, his reputation in tatters. The next day, he tried to approach me, his eyes swollen, probably from remorse, or perhaps just from being caught. "Please, can we talk about this?" he pleaded, his voice a fragile whisper. "I have nothing to say to you," I replied coldly, my heart stone against his pleas. But my mind was a whirlwind of emotions, torn between the remnants of love and the fresh wounds of betrayal. Every fiber of my being screamed to run away, to escape the ruins of my once happy life. But no, I wasn't done. The dramatic revelation was just the appetizer. The main course of revenge was still being served. In my pursuit of revenge, I found unlikely allies. The boys, feeling betrayed themselves, were more than willing to assist me in my mission. We colluded, planned, and executed meticulous schemes to expose his lies further, to tarnish his image and isolate him from everyone who once admired him. We worked in shadows, our moves calculated, our intentions clear. Our little revenge squad was a ticking time bomb, and it exploded, revealing more secrets, more betrayals. It seemed my husband had created a labyrinth of lies, a maze so complex that even he was lost in it. The more I discovered, the more my heart hardened. The slivers of love that remained were now turning into shards of hate. And then there was her, the other woman, the partner in his deceit. My anger towards her was a raging inferno, but I also saw her as a pawn in his twisted game, another victim of his lies. I approached her, my intentions unclear even to myself. Was it to confront her, to understand her, or to simply see the face of the woman who had stolen my husband's heart? Her eyes met mine, a flicker of guilt passing through them before being replaced by defiance. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice laced with a mixture of fear and defiance. "I want to know why," was all I could muster, my voice a mere whisper, the pain and anger battling within me. She, too, had been a puppet in his game, unaware of his marital status, fed lies coated in sweet words. It became clear that in his quest for thrill and adventure, he had played us both, leaving a trail of broken hearts in his wake. The revelation sparked a strange camaraderie between us, two broken souls united by betrayal. We exchanged stories, tears, and mutual regrets, the pain forging an unspoken bond between us. It was a connection neither of us had sought, but there we were, confiding, understanding, healing. As I listened to her, my rage simmered into a cold, calculated resolve. This was not just my battle anymore. It was our battle, a war against deceit and betrayal. We became partners in revenge, planning the final act of this drama, the grand finale where he would be stripped of his masks, his true face revealed to the world. As the day of reckoning approached, my newfound ally and I met in secret, refining our plan and sharing our vulnerabilities. Our bond was strange, but it was real, forged in the fires of betrayal. We were two wounded warriors, fighting a common enemy, our pain our strongest weapon. Finally, the day arrived. The stage was set, and all the actors were in their places. The air was thick with tension, charged with anticipation. I felt a kaleidoscope of emotions as I prepared to face him, my stomach in knots, my heart racing. This is it, the moment of truth, I said to myself, steadying my breath, preparing for the storm ahead. We had planned a public confrontation, a spectacular showdown where all his lies would be laid bare, his charade exposed. We had invited friends, family, colleagues, anyone who had known him, respected him. It was to be a court of public opinion, a platform where his true self would be revealed. He walked in, unsuspecting, his usual charm in place, his smile radiating confidence. He had no idea that his fortress of lies was about to crumble, his empire of deceit about to fall. My heart hammered in my chest as he approached, his eyes searching mine, a flicker of curiosity in them. "What is all this?" he asked, the innocence in his voice almost convincing. And then the storm broke, a torrent of accusations, revelations, and confessions pouring down on him. His face changed, the mask slipping, revealing the man behind it, the real him. The room was a battlefield, his defenders fighting a losing battle, the truth slicing through their defenses, exposing the rot within. His eyes darted around, looking for an escape, a way out of this nightmare. But there was none. The walls were closing in, his past catching up to him. The air was electric, the tension palpable, the silence broken only by the whispers of shock and disbelief. It was a spectacle, a display of his true self, each layer peeled back, revealing the man he really was. His charm, his charisma, all stripped away, leaving behind a broken, defeated man. The room was a sea of faces, each one a mirror reflecting his betrayal, his deceit. I watched him, my heart a mix of satisfaction and sorrow, the final act playing out before my eyes. I had dreamed of this moment, longed for it, the sweet taste of revenge on my lips. But as I saw him there, broken, lost, a part of me mourned the man I had loved, the man I had thought he was. He tried to speak, to defend himself, to explain, but his words were empty, his voice a hollow echo. The truth was out, the mask shattered, and all that remained was the man, the real man, exposed and vulnerable. His eyes met mine, a plea in them, a silent request for forgiveness, understanding. But it was too late. The damage was done, and all that remained was the ruins of a life, a love, destroyed by his own hands. The confrontation was a catharsis, a release of all the pain, the anger, the betrayal. It was a cleansing, a purification, the truth washing away the stains of his lies. And as the dust settled, as the echoes of the confrontation faded, I felt a sense of peace, a calmness I hadn't felt in a long time. As I walked away from the ruins of my past, a sense of freedom enveloped me, a lightness in my step. I had fought the battle, won the war, and now the future was mine to shape, to mold. The pain was still there, the scars still fresh, but I was healing, growing, evolving. I looked back one last time at the man I had loved, the man I had lost. He was a shadow, a ghost of his former self, his world crumbled, his life in shambles. It was a painful sight, a reminder of what could have been, what should have been. But it was also a symbol of my strength, my resilience, my ability to rise from the ashes, to rebuild, to renew. And with a final glance, a final goodbye, I turned away, leaving the past behind, stepping into the future, a future of possibilities, of hope, of new beginnings. The aftermath of the confrontation was a maelstrom of emotions, a tempest of pain and relief, regret and vindication. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, but the echo of betrayal still reverberated in the back of my mind. "You've done it. You've exposed him," I said to myself, trying to grasp the enormity of what had just transpired. He was now the talk of the town, whispers of his deceitful exploits permeating through every social circle. His name was synonymous with betrayal, his image tarnished beyond repair. It was the bitter fruit of his deception, a consequence of his actions, and it tasted oh so sweet to my revenge-fueled heart. Our shared acquaintances were divided, some siding with him, ensnared in his web of charming lies, while others extended their sympathy to me, their eyes newly opened to his true colors. It was a war of opinions, a battlefield of conflicting loyalties, and I was at its center, a symbol of his deceit and downfall. The other woman, once my opponent, now my ally, also began her journey of healing. Our bond, though born of pain and betrayal, had become a beacon of support and understanding, a shared experience that only we could truly comprehend. We were the wounded survivors of his emotional onslaught, and together we started to rebuild our broken selves. During this turbulent time, my newfound strength became my guiding light, my compass through the storm. I immersed myself in activities that brought me joy, surrounded myself with people who loved and supported me. This is your time, your moment to rediscover yourself, I constantly reminded myself. Every day was a battle, a struggle to move past the pain, to let go of the bitterness. There were moments of weakness, moments where the shadows of the past threatened to engulf me, but I fought back, clung to the light, to the hope of a better tomorrow. The path was rocky, the journey long, but I persevered, my resolve unbroken. I indulged in self-care, explored new hobbies, met new people, opened my heart to new experiences. I learned to love myself, to value my worth, to see beyond the scars, beyond the pain. It was a journey of self-discovery, of growth, of transformation. I was a phoenix, rising from the ashes, reborn in the fire of my trials. However, the shadow of him lingered, a ghost haunting my steps, his memory a constant reminder of the pain, the betrayal. But with each passing day, the shadow grew fainter, the pain less sharp, the memories less vivid. I was healing, slowly, gradually, the wounds closing, the scars fading. In my journey of rebirth, I also learned the power of forgiveness, the strength in letting go. I realized that harboring the bitterness, the anger, was only poisoning my soul, chaining me to the past, to him. To truly be free, to truly move on, you must forgive, a wise friend advised me. It was not easy to release the anger, to let go of the resentment. It was a battle, a struggle within myself, but I fought it. I conquered it. I learned to forgive, not for him, but for me, to free myself from the chains of the past, to cleanse my soul from the toxins of bitterness. It was a release, a liberation, a breath of fresh air. Forgiving him was my final act of revenge, my ultimate victory. It was my way of taking back my power, my control, my life. It was my declaration of independence, my proclamation of freedom. I was no longer his victim, no longer his prisoner. I was free, free to live, to love, to be me. In this newfound freedom, in this rebirth, I found my true self, my authentic self. I learned to embrace my flaws, to celebrate my uniqueness, to love myself unconditionally. I discovered my worth, my value, my essence. I was me, unapologetically, proudly, freely. And as I walked this path of self-discovery, of healing, of growth, I realized that this journey, this experience, had shaped me, molded me into the person I was meant to be. It was a painful lesson, a harsh reality, but it was my truth, my story. And I owned it, embraced it, learned from it. In this climactic juncture of my life, where forgiveness had paved the road to my emancipation from pain, and I was evolving every day, I also had a revelation. What if my true revenge is not just unearthing his deceitful endeavors, but also blooming in the ruins he left me in? I thought. a newfound purpose illuminating my path. I decided to convert my sufferings, my experiences, into stepping stones to help others going through the same agony. It was time to turn the tables, time to metamorphose my pain into power, my sufferings into solace for others. My journey found a voice in the form of a support group where broken hearts met to share, to heal, and to find strength in unity. It was a sanctuary of broken souls, a haven where wounded hearts found solace, understanding, and hope. Every story shared was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that we were not alone in our pain. Here, amidst tears and laughter, pain and hope, I saw the transformative power of shared experiences, of mutual support, of unconditional love. It was a magical experience, a healing journey, a rediscovery of self-worth, and I was humbled to be a part of it. Every session was a step closer to healing, a move towards self-discovery, a journey towards self-love. It was an emotional roller coaster, a symphony of pain and hope, sorrow and joy, and it was beautiful. I was witnessing the metamorphosis of broken spirits, the rebirth of lost souls, the rediscovery of buried self-love. However, my journey was not without its challenges, its setbacks. There were moments of weakness, of doubt, of despair. There were times when the shadows of the past threatened to engulf me, to pull me back into the abyss of pain. But I fought, I persevered, I overcame. Every challenge faced was a victory won. Every setback overcome was a step forward. I am not defined by my past, by his betrayal. I am defined by my strength, by my resilience, by my ability to rise above the pain, I reminded myself during those trying times. It was my mantra, my shield against the shadows, my beacon in the darkness. In this journey of self-discovery, of healing, of transformation, I also found love, not in another, but in myself. I learned to appreciate my worth, to celebrate my uniqueness, to embrace my flaws. I discovered the beauty in self-love, the power in self-acceptance, the freedom in self-expression. I was not searching for someone to complete me, to fix me, to save me. I was complete, whole, beautiful in my imperfection. I was my savior, my hero, my love. I was enough. In the end, my revenge was not just exposing his deceit, not just surviving his betrayal, but thriving despite it. It was about transforming my pain into power, my suffering into strength, my tears into pearls of wisdom. It was about rising from the ashes, soaring above the pain, embracing my true self. And there he was, shackled by the chains of his deceit, imprisoned in the web of his lies, a prisoner of his own making. He had lost everything, his reputation, his friends, his love, while I had gained everything, my self-worth, my strength, my freedom. My true revenge was my transformation, my evolution, my liberation. It was the realization of my worth, the acceptance of my flaws, the celebration of my uniqueness. It was my journey from victim to survivor, from survivor to warrior, from warrior to victor. In conclusion, revenge is not about causing pain. It's about reclaiming your power. It's not about dwelling in the past. It's about building your future. It's not about him. It's about you.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, is something wrong?" Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? you're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1, if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. "Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay?" I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. "Yes, I'm inviting my father." "That's great. I might invite my parents too." I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.